Play fake to Fournette. They throw to the middle of the field. Wide open for the touchdown. Tommy Bohannon. Touchdown Jacksonville. They faked it. They snuck the fullback out. That's a touchdown for the Jaguars.
Let's go sideline to sideline with Peter King, NFL insider for Mad Dog Unleashed.
Ryan rolls. Ryan comes. Ryan is throwing it up in the air. Incomplete! Incomplete! And Taylor for Jones. Incomplete! And the Eagles take over on downs with 58 seconds left.
Peter has covered the NFL for over 30 years. He's the godfather of NFL writers, and he's now editor-in-chief of his own website, the mmqb.com.
He puts his left foot forward in the red shoes, takes the snap, looks right, lobs it for Gronk. He reaches up, brings it down. Touchdown, Patriots. Gronkowski had Byard on his back. And with his score, the Pats now lead it by a 34-7 count.
There's no better place for NFL conversation than Peter and Doggy's weekly chat.
Case on a deep drop, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Diggs. Stay up. Oh my God! Oh my God! 30. No. 10. Touchdown! Are you kidding me? Miracle finish! It's a Minneapolis miracle! Stephon Diggs and the Minnesota Vikings have walked up on the New Orleans Saints. It's a 61-yard Minneapolis miracle. I can't believe what I just saw, Kyle. What an unbelievable play.
Now let's break the huddle with Mad Dog and Peter King.
That didn't last long, but boy, it was fun. Anyway, Mr. King for about the 30th year in a row at the Super Bowl. Peter?
Yeah, baby.
How are you, buddy guy?
I'm okay, and you?
I'm hanging in there. You know, it's funny. We were here. I don't remember if we must have had you on. The first time I can ever recall you coming on with Mike and me at the Super Bowl was the one I remember specifically was the one in L.A. with Dallas and Buffalo. Because that is the first one there was a room with tables that I recall. And I remember you coming on, and I think you probably came on. No, you also had to come on with the Buffalo Giant one because you and I were the same prediction.
Yeah.
But I remember that one specifically. So think about it. You have come on every week for 30 or 28, whatever it is, 9 years on Super Bowl week for 28, 29 years. And I used to make fun of you. You did all the work, and then you'd have Tim Layden. Remember that?
Yeah.
Layden write the game story. Tim would do all the research.
Well, but it was, hey, the year that was the worst is when Rick Tellender did the game story. And that was the year when San Diego played San Francisco. And Steve Young threw 6 touchdown passes. And after the game, my assignment was to trail Steve Young for the whole night. So I did, and it was the most extraordinary night I'd ever spent with a player. He threw up in the car. He was totally dehydrated. He got back to the hotel at the Miami Airport Hilton, and he's catatonic on his bed in his room. He's got like 40 people in his room. They want to have a party. He's so dehydrated, he's catatonic. He can't move. So the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue comes in. They put in needles in both arms to rehydrate him, and it was just the craziest thing I ever saw. And so, and Tellender wrote this story, and it was like 2 paragraphs at the end of the story. This incredible scene with Steve Young, and also telling one of his uncles to not say anything disparaging about Joe Montana.
Wow, that's fascinating. I'm surprised he got that sick. That I was at that game. They won easy, and I remember being that hot.
I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you exactly what happened. The reason that this happened, his agent was Lee Steinberg. In those days, Lee Steinberg lined up. He was the MVP. He's going to expose them all over the country. He did 24
post-game
minicam interviews
that's
on the field.
After you played for
2 hours. Took him 2 hours.
Way too much.
And so he at one point, Young knew I was following him. I knew him. He says, Peter, can you try to find anything to drink? And so I brought him 3 bottles of Gatorade, red Gatorade. And like 4 or 5 cookies. He pounded the Gatorade right away, and like 15 minutes later, we were in the car on the way to his hotel, and he vomited all of the red Gatorade up in the back of the car on Lee Steinberg's shoes.
Oh, now, I remember one in the Giant Patriot, the first one. I did the host show. I was at that stadium from like 11 o'clock in the morning. I was there all day, night, post-game TV and everything else. And I saw Joe Brown, and he tells me, I said, where's Pete? I must have bought. He said he's in the hospital. Was that the one he got sick in? What didn't you have a Super Bowl?
Oh yeah. That was in Phoenix.
Oh, it was Phoenix. That's the Patriot one.
I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital that morning.
You went the night before? Didn't you go the night before? Saturday night?
No, very early in the morning on Sunday. I knew
you were worn out. You were there for 2 days. Weren't you there for a couple of days?
No, I was there for about 10 hours, and at one point I fell asleep and I woke up. And I'm looking over, and there's a TV on, and they're doing the coin toss. And I said, I guess I'm going to miss the Super Bowl.
Because you worked hard. That's when you really, you started to get yourself in some shape. You did a great job after that, right?
That's exactly what happened. That is precisely what happened. That was the off season where I started to take care of myself a little bit better.
The next time I saw you at a softball game.
Softball game.
And I said, holy gosh, look at Peter King. He looks superb. I think it was the same side.
It was that year. Yeah, because 2007 or 2007 or 2008 is when I really kind of went on the health kick a little bit.
I'm happy, but you missed that game. I missed it. Well, you saw it, but you missed the classic. What's your first Super Bowl?
Montana, Marino, Palo Alto.
85.
85,
okay.
Yeah.
I loved the Niners in that game. Did you like the Niners in that game?
Yeah, because I didn't think that Miami's defense could stop Montana. And not that Montana was his greatest, but Miami's defense was just so flawed.
Yeah, I loved them in that game. All right, what's the best Super Bowl that you've seen?
I think it's got to be the Patriots in Seattle. It was just so much fun and so shocking, and so everyone's jaw hit the floor. And I remember walking out of the place that day, and I ran into Darrell Bevell, the offensive coordinator of the Seahawks, and I didn't know what to say other than, "Hey, Darrell, I'm sorry." I didn't know what to say. I just quite literally couldn't even ask him a question about strategy or anything. I just felt. I just felt terrible for him. But I think, and I think last year's game, the thing I'll always remember about last year's game is I honestly feel, Chris, early in the fourth quarter, there was an inevitable feel to it. There was a Tom Brady inevitability to that game. We've just seen it too much. And I really thought, especially midway through the fourth quarter, even though they needed another touchdown and 2-point conversion, I thought they were going to do it.
You felt bad. Listen, you felt the game slipping away from Atlanta. I thought the best game that I saw, I don't know why I feel this way, because there's been a lot of good ones. And there was a time when the Super Bowl was terrible.
There was a time it was
everybody
terrible.
hated the games forever and ever. But I thought the Giant-Buffalo game, I don't know why.
That was a great game.
Maybe the backdrop of the war, the old sombrero in Tampa, no turnovers in the game. I always thought that was a tremendous game.
A great game. One of the reasons I love that game is that the huge underdog just really outthought and outcoached the Buffalo Bills. They just did. And I'll never forget, Parcells got on the plane in San Francisco. There was no extra week that year.
Right.
And he got on the bus at Candlestick. They beat the 49ers 15-13, 5 field goals. And they get on the bus, and Parcells looks over at Ron Earhart. He says, shorten the game, play clock ball. Yeah. Yep. And that's exactly what they did. They held the ball for 42 minutes or whatever it was. And one of the reasons why I absolutely loved that game is because when you think about it, you basically say that it takes more than being the best team to win the Super Bowl. And
Buffalo was the better team.
No question.
That's the one they should have won.
That is the game they should have won.
And the other three, they were outplayed. They were not as good. That team, they were better than.
They should have won the game. But, I can fault so many people, and one of whom, I don't know why, when you have 8 seconds to go, I don't know why you don't throw a sideline route.
They ran the ball. They ran the ball. Yeah.
They kicked the field goal with 8 seconds to go.
I apologize. I didn't like the play before that when they ran the ball.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of yards on it. But they ran the ball. They had no timeouts, of course, right?
Yeah. All you do is you tell Jim Kelly, you throw the ball where only Andre Reed can catch it on the sideline, and if he doesn't catch it, you kick the 48-yard field goal.
I didn't realize they had 8 seconds. Wow, that's a mistake. That's terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
Awful.
That's another reason why I don't know how you guys put Marv Levy in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, they won a lot of games.
Oh, Peter.
Won a lot of games.
What do you feel about Owens? You think he's a Hall of Famer? You going to vote for him?
Well, that's an odd question. That's a weird question, and here's why. I favor Terrell Owens getting in the Hall of Fame. I will vote for Terrell Owens getting in the Hall of Fame. However, the way the system works is we have 15 modern era finalists, and you discuss them all, and then you come down to you have to cut it from 15 to 10. Okay, I'm pretty sure Owens is going to make it to 10. Okay, and then you have to cut it from 10 to 5. So now we get into an interesting question. Okay, do I think that Owens is absolutely one of the best 5? Probably, but it's close.
Who are the other people now?
Well, you got to get Ray Lewis.
No question about it.
In my opinion, Randy Moss is better than Terrell Owens.
I would agree with that.
I would give Moss in there.
That's two.
And Tony Baselli is my third. Okay? Tony Baselli, if last year a safety who played 7 years, and it was great, for 5 of those years, he was great.
You're talking about
Kenny Easley. Kenny Easley.
But he was also he got a bad deal with his doctor in Seattle too.
But
with the hip thing,
I don't factor that into whether a guy gets in the Hall of Fame.
But that was not an injury that kept him out. That was malpractice by the Seattle training staff. That kept his years short.
I just don't. I don't care. I don't care if he got hit by a car. I don't mean to be crass, but I can't say, well, geez, this was awful. Yeah, it was awful. It was terrible. Okay. And so then you have to Terrell Davis gets in, and Terrell Davis was arguably the best postseason running back of all time.
4 years is the problem.
3 years intergalactic and 1 very good year. Okay, so I mean that's light. Really light.
I don't know if I would have voted for him.
Really light. Yeah, and that's a tough one. But Tony Baselli, the other day Anthony Munoz was talking about it. I heard him over on Radio Row, and he's talking about it, and he goes, I'm paraphrasing. He thinks he's the most technically perfect left tackle.
Played 6 years though. Yeah.
6 years and
3 All-Pro.
And and I think he was the best left tackle of his day. But anyway, you're going
to take 2 receivers. I mean, if you take Moss,
I can't answer that. I can't answer that. Because now you ask yourself, okay, what about Brian Dawkins and what about John Lynch? Brian Dawkins, who I believe it's an absolute cinch Hall of Fame.
I don't think he is, but okay.
I do. I love Brian Dawkins. And I also favor John Lynch's case, and so I like Moai. I probably don't love Moai on the level of like a Randy Moss, but I like Moai, and so there's a lot of guys in that.
How many are you allowed to vote for? 6? 5. So you got 3 you're going to definitely vote for.
But I'm not even sure that all those guys get to the final 10. So in other words, understand this, and people don't really get it. You got 15, then you got to vote to 10, and those 10, then you have to vote for 5.
I get it, right?
And then those 5, you vote yes or no on each one of those 5. So if Owens is in the final 5, he's no doubt I'm voting for him.
You're not sure if he's going to get from 10 to 5.
I'm not sure he's going to get from 10 to 5, but if he gets from 10 to 5, he's got my vote.
All right, how about Jerry Kramer? What's his status right now? He's on a veterans vote.
He's a senior committee. This will be, this is going to be really, probably the last chance he's ever going to have.
Does he have to beat who to win?
No, he doesn't have to beat anybody. All he needs is 80% yes votes.
How does he not get it? He's the offensive guard of the 1960s. How does he not get these votes? I don't understand. Because there's so many Packers in the Hall of Fame?
No.
How does he not get in? Because Bart Starr once said he was not great?
Chris, here's exactly why. Okay? Now, Jerry Kramer, as a modern era finalist, was a finalist for the Hall of Fame 9 times. By a jury of his peers. He was not voted into the Hall of Fame any of those 9 times.
But that's because they had so many Packers in the Hall of Fame. They got off it a little bit. Can
I say this, Chris? Every person who saw him play and everything like that, whatever you say, whatever the rules are, whatever. Oh, there's too many of this or that. that's a jury of his peers who saw him play all the time. Then he gets in as a seniors committee guy, I'm going to say in 97. Okay, and so now all he has to do, some of his peers and then some new guys. Okay, so all you have to do, not all you have to do, but you got to get 80% of the vote. He didn't get it that year. Okay, as a seniors committee guy. Now he comes back as a senior committee guy. I believe I'm correct in saying this. I believe that of the 48 voters on the Pro Football Hall of Fame selection committee, there's not a soul on that committee who saw Jerry Kramer play football.
I would think you're probably right. Unless you have Eisenberg in there or something like that.
You don't. He's not in there. You don't have. They have. I'm not saying they've gotten rid of the old timers. What I'm saying is they have basically over time they've replaced a lot of the real veteran guys with the younger guys, and so.
You have nobody to campaign for.
Chris, Rick Gosselin is going to give his case. Ron Borges and Rick Gosselin, two of the guys who've been on the committee for a long time, both are very staunch Kramer guys.
Well, he was the offense. He was all decade in the 1960s.
He's one. Here's the big thing about Kramer. He's on the 50th year, all half century team, whatever the NFL called it. And what is so incredibly bizarre about this is that 50-year NFL team was voted on by the Hall of Fame committee.
So they put him on the Hall of Fame team.
They put him on the 50-year team and didn't elect him to the Hall of Fame.
That's because there's so many Packers on that damn on the Hall of Famers. Look at all the Packers. There's
then why did they put guys in the Hall of Fame who they didn't put on the Hall of the 50th?
I can't answer that. I'm trying to come up with a reason of why they somehow bypassed Kramer, and the only reason I can come up with, there's Starr, Horning, Jim Taylor, Ringo, Nitsky, Willie Davis. Now forget
Dave Robinson.
He is, but right. Willie Wood, Herb Adderley. I mean, it comes to a point as that's 8-9 guys plus the head coach.
It's the same thing with the Steelers now too. You know, it's very hard to get a drum beat going for LC Greenwood. You know,
Greenwood's a hell of a player. Now I think he was a great player because he had Mean Joe Green taking two offensive linemen. But all right, so that you guys are gonna have an interesting vote this week. That's gonna be a tough vote.
And Chris, and all I'm saying is this. I'm just simply saying that. Here's what the Hall of Fame is doing. And I'm not complaining. I'm stating a fact. The Hall of Fame wants people who've never seen Jerry Kramer play to clean up a mess of their doing.
Right. They don't think you had all this time to get in, and now I got to put him in when I didn't see him.
When I don't know Jerry Kramer other than people I've talked to. And what I say to people all the time, okay, I do my research on these players. And about 5 years ago, I forget how many years ago, I was on the phone with Bart Starr.
And I know Starr didn't love him, right?
And no, well, here's what I said. I was asking about whatever year Dave Robinson got in, and I forget.
3 years ago.
Okay? Yeah. So I'm talking to Bart Starr, and he's telling me how great Dave Robinson was. And at the end of the conversation, I said, Bart, is there anybody else who you feel over time has really been neglected by the Pro Football Hall of Fame? And he said, yes. I said, who? And he goes, Bob Skoronski.
I knew he was going to say that.
Yeah. Bob Skoronski protected my blind side. He blah, 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 blah. And all this stuff. He loved him. He loved him. And I said, is there anybody else? No.
Wow.
So now, here's what's happened now, Chris.
I think
there's now a little bit of this a little bit of the revisionist, because I wrote that. And I can't say what I'm going to talk about, but I'm just going to say, now it's very easy to go to Bart Starr. Oh, Bart, you're not a Jerry Kramer guy? Oh, well, okay. And they say, well, if you don't say something about it, then that's really going to hurt his case.
He
doesn't want to hurt Jerry Kramer.
Maybe the instant replay and all the notoriety he got for that book.
Could be.
Those people didn't get. Packers never got paid. Lombardi never paid you.
Yeah.
Maybe that made him a little jealous that he made all this money off writing a book when they were sitting there trying to get manhole covers off Lombardi. Is that possible?
I guess so. Sure. I mean, I don't know. Most of those people are not alive anymore, so I don't know.
He won 5 championships. They were a running team.
Yeah.
And he was all decade. How's the man not make the Hall of Fame? I don't understand that.
I don't know.
All right, we'll get
I
off
don't
that.
know.
That's fascinating. All right, let's do a couple seconds on the game. I know you're burned out. I'm a little burned out of it too. Well, let's do Minnesota. Let's let's do that. 90-91, they did a good job.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's a different era. Not as many of us were here.
Yeah.
It's downtown. I don't know. Maybe it's
It's a really weird Super Bowl. It's a weird feel. Look, Minnesota is putting on an event, and really, they're doing as good a job as they can.
Nicest people in the world.
They are the greatest people. I love it here. I went ice fishing the other day. I love this place. I love this area. It's just hard when you don't have a centrally located place to do a Super Bowl. And, this Super Bowl is sort of all over the place. You got, Mall of America, which is like 11 miles away from downtown. This is the weirdest environment to sit in Paramus Mall basically all week and watch, hey, honey, look, there's Mike Haynes. Hey, there's Joe Montana. It's just... It's
odd.
It's the strangest Super Bowl.
I completely,
it really is.
Very strange. All right, now, listen, I think the Eagles can win the game.
Definitely.
It's up to Foles is going to have to play well, though.
Yes, he is.
They're not going to win the game with him being average.
But how about the other day?
He doesn't have to be great, but he's got to be pretty good.
How about last week?
Well,
after for 3 straight games, they're basically got him in a hermetically sealed jar and not letting him do anything. And then against Minnesota, all of a sudden he's Dan Fouts. And he's throwing the ball deep, and it's right in their hands. That throw to Torrey Smith's the most beautiful throw he's ever made in his life.
That touchdown in the flea flicker, that was a good pass.
It was beautiful.
Do you think they're going to let him go here this week?
I think they have to, because Belichick and Matt Patricia, I think, if you ask me, I think they're really going to try to pummel Zach Ertz. I think they're going to try to really physically punish Zach Ertz. That's just sort of what they do.
He's a very good tight end, and he's his security blanket.
That's exactly right. So I think that's the guy that they're going to pick out and say, this guy is, if he catches 6 balls for 38 yards, that's fine, but he's not going to beat us.
Interesting.
That's kind of my view. But if I'm just reading the tea leaves, I don't think New England trusts Nick Foles.
Oh, I don't think they do either. They're going to let Foles beat him if they have to. They're going to see if Nick Foles can do this again.
Yeah.
Your guy wrote a very good story in the preview thing in SI this past week when I may have been Staples, I forget who wrote it, but he made a good point. He said, which Foles does Belichick try to defend? The guy that is conservative plays against Atlanta, or does he try to defend the Foles that played against Minnesota?
He has to prepare for anything, because... I'm just telling you right now. My column on Monday was I rode to work with Doug Peterson last Friday. Met him at a Wawa in South Jersey, and we drove to work. And I got out of that car, and I said, "You got a hell of a chance. You really do." Just in part because I think he is not taking this as, "Oh my God, we got to beat the great and powerful Patriots." He just tells Alshon Jeffrey, there's Malcolm Butler. You got to beat him. Forget about everything else. You just beat Malcolm Butler. And, hey, Chris Long, you got to beat Nate Solder. Come on, don't worry about anything else. And that, I think, he's got his team believing that, and I hate to be cliche, that these guys put their pants on one leg at a time.
That's part of beating them.
He's not
intimidated.
But the point is, Chris, you've been watching these games. Tom Brady plays like the game is 70 minutes long. It's like it's never over for this guy.
Never. He is so good. They might do everything right and still lose the gun because of him.
Yeah. And in part, in the Jacksonville game, Jacksonville made some mistakes. They really took their feet off the gas pedal.
They tried to win the game. They tried to win the game protecting a quarterback who they didn't trust.
Yes, that's right.
And that's very difficult to do that on the road against him.
Yeah.
And that's what they try to do in the game.
Yeah.
And that's fair. I read the Saban thing. I made sure I read it last night. I know you were coming on today. You did a great job on that. Monday Morning Quarterback, Saban and Belichick. And
that was Jenny Varentis. That was awesome.
Nice job. And how the father really has a lot to do with the two of them. And a good quote by Saban at the end. Saban and Belichick, folks, are good buddies, defensive-minded coaches, as we all know. But the good quote at the end was, and Saban said it, Steve Belichick, the father, wrong place, wrong time. He just never got an opportunity to show you how great a coach he was.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. And then I did yesterday. You'd like this, and you didn't listen, but you would have liked it. Al Groh I had on yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
To do Belichick and Parcells.
Oh, yeah. How was he?
Very good. Into doing it. He did I guess he's in
the documentary.
Yeah, and he just talked about, did you ever have any idea why did Belichick fail in Cleveland? He did a very good job of giving you a little feel of both of them.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Belichick, I haven't seen it yet, and I don't think I'll see it tonight, but I certainly will. There's only one guy, one coach, and you followed him pretty well, so I can talk to Peter about this because he followed those 80s Giants. There's only one coach. There's two now, Saban, but there's the other coach that Belichick looks up to that he doesn't have this awe feel over that he doesn't, is Parcells.
Yeah, you're right.
Parcells bailed him out twice. He hired him when he was about to leave in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And then when he was fired out of Cleveland, he brought him back to coach the Browns.
Yeah.
And Gross said a good point. He said when Belichick got back to New England, and he was the defensive coordinator. And he thought that when Belichick got back there that, he's not going to be the defensive secondary coach because in the Giants, he coached the linebackers, Groh, and Belichick was their coordinator. So Belichick was on the field, and Groh was upstairs giving him the plays. When Belichick coached, it was the other way around. And Belichick had no problem with it whatsoever. Knew Groh was the defensive coordinator, and his job was to go upstairs to give him the secondary, the reads, and let him make the play calls.
Wow.
And I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
And the thing is that Parcells, who I think right now is probably almost a little jealous of the great success Belichick has, that is the one coach that Bill, almost in his life, publicly has to look up to.
Yeah.
I think that's the amazing thing about it.
It is amazing. Well, I'll just give you my little quick perspective on it. Bill Parcells really has changed a lot in the last few years. And I think the death of Wellington Mara helped change him. He got out of football, and I think he realized that, there's a lot of life that I missed. There's a lot of my family that I missed. And he had all these great moments in the sport of football, but there's also a lot of stuff that he missed. And I think he wanted to get back and repair this thing with Belichick. Scott Pioli helped repair that relationship, and now it's really pretty good. But when I talk to Parcells now, and I'm not saying, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, he'll stay on the phone as long as I want. He wants to talk. He now befriends a lot of young football players in South Florida. He helped Jacoby Brissett a lot.
Yeah, I know. He's close to him.
He helped Teddy Bridgewater a lot. Okay, Abe Elam, one of his former players, is friendly with a lot of the players in South Florida, and he will tell Bill, hey, this guy might need some help, or why don't you talk to this guy? And so Bill is staying close to it that way. But I think as far as the Belichick part of it goes, I'm not sure that jealousy would be the right thing. I think he views Belichick's success in part as, I get a little piece of that. I really helped Bill. And one of the ways I think he helped Bill is in his ruthlessness. Because I think that it's hard to be Bill Parcells. But Bill Parcells with the New York Giants, Chris, I remember it so vividly. Guys like Joe Morris did not like Bill Parcells. And the reason they didn't like Bill Parcells, and I'm sure time has softened it, the reason they didn't like it is that Joe Morris was the best worker, the greatest teammate, a worker bee, a great guy. And they'd see Lawrence Taylor getting away with everything. And he would just think it's totally unfair. Why are we all the rest doing this and Taylor's sleeping in meetings and Taylor's doing all this stuff?
That's the way it goes.
Well, as Bill Parcells said, hey, listen, I'm not going to treat everybody the same. I am going to treat everybody fairly. And that was the Parcells mantra. And anyway, and he also said this, if you have pelts on the wall, you can coach in a different way. You can, because the players are going to have to listen to you and respect you. Some of the stuff, Chris, I'll just go back in time and tell you one quick story. Some of the stuff that happened with Belichick early on in New England. Do you remember in 2003, they had won one Super Bowl. Then the next year, they didn't make the playoffs. Okay? And in the third year, right before the third year, he cuts Lawyer Malloy. right before the first
He goes
game
to
of the
Buffalo.
season.
I remember.
They go to Buffalo. They lose 31-0.
I remember.
And before the game, Tom Jackson goes on ESPN and he says, I'm going to tell you right now, players in New England, they hate their coach. So just imagine if they keep going down the tubes, in 2003 and they don't have that great year. I'm just telling you that one Super Bowl would not have been enough. Belichick would have had to win more than that to be the guy. And once he got the multiple pelts on the wall, then he can do whatever he wants.
Interesting. Peter, great job. Good half hour.
Thanks
today.
a lot, Chris.
Always all year, as
Thank
usual.
you.
Half past, we continue here on Mad Dog Unleashed.